so our next example is going to show you the set of window menus, and that's going to be our next kind of exploratory area for today. Besides the radio buttons, also look at the menus, because menus are popular type of control, and that's interesting for us to explore. But also going back to the presentation. So we talked about this application, and here is just we have a few slides which tell you what really happens when you click on these buttons, and it's done through these short versions of sequence diagrams, which shows you the method flow in our application. But I think we already have done that by looking at the actual code and trying to see what the actual code does, right? So, but keep in mind that there's those like little sequence diagrams that shows you what is happening at runtime. Anyway, the next item on the agenda is menus. Menus and actions associated with those menus. So to create the menu, we need to construct it in steps. And in most graphical user interface libraries, the way things are done, that there usually are recognized items such as the menu bar, right? Or some graphical libraries could call it a task bar or something similar. But there's a menu bar. Beyond that menu bar, there is a menu, and the menu will have items, and those items could also have submenus, and the entire arrangement of menus is actually a hierarchical structure, because the menus can have submenus, right, and submenus can have other submenus, and so this is basically an interestingly behaving arrangement of items which appear to be floating on top of our windows if we make our selections. So of course this is the demo for this, right? So this is like a menu which I can invoke here, and when I do something like this, this is the submenu right there, right? So this is the menu with menu items, and this happens to be another level of submenu, and sometimes you can have more levels of these submenus and so forth, right? And so right across this thing here is the menu bar, right? So this is the bar, which is just like a top level access to the set of menus. The square with items is the menu itself, and the menu is populated with items. By the way, notice that items can be clickable items, but also there are separators, right? So the separators are also added to the menu as items, but it's called a separator, so obviously the user won't have a choice to land on the separator. It just basically allows grouping certain items or rather separating one group of items from another group of items. So these are menu separators. And like we mentioned before, there are also submenus which appear to be another layer of menus, right? Okay, so let's see what swing does. This is our overall generic overview of what comes with menus. But then, so here's the set of things that we can do. And so to create the menu that looks like we just observed, right, you need to create the menu bar. You need to add top-level menus to the menu bar, and then add menu items, right? So there are menu items. So the code roughly may look like this. The menu is actually a menu item, not the menu bar. So this is just a reference to one of the items, like the help submenu, right? The menu item is help about, right? And this is how you create the menu bar. There's J menu bar, right? And then once you have the menu bar, you can you can tell the frame that the frame should have the menu bar, okay? And then you can create the menu, which would be help, and then add that menu to the bar, and then basically create the menu item, and then you need to tell the menu that you've created that this should be your item, right? So also very tedious, and sometimes it's easier to look at the code rather than talk about it, but just be aware that when you construct the menus, there are different kinds of objects and you need to manipulate them in a certain way, and there's a menu bar, there are menus that are added to the menu bar, right? Then the menus are populated with items, so they look like rectangular areas with items, and essentially you can see that you also need to sync in those menu events when the user clicks on them. So then you also need to have those menu events, which of course just are done in Java through yet another set of listeners. By the way, the menus are typically or typically can be set up to be manipulated through the shortcut keys. For instance, in my browser, if I press the Alt key, right, the Alt key makes the menu bar visible, although it's not visible by default. And if I know exactly where I'm going, so for instance, if I press Alt-T, it just instantly brings me to the menu that corresponds to the tools menu and shows its items right there, right? So likewise, I can use my arrow keys, like up and down arrows on my keyboard, to navigate, and left and right arrows can be used to navigate the submenus. So the entire set of menus is almost like a preset collection of commands, which are available both through the mouse and through the keyboard. So all of it becomes effective interface for business-like applications, and you will commonly find menus in business applications. So let's explore this in more detail by looking at this sample. The sample is A9, right? So the sample is A9, and we can acquire the code simply by downloading everything. So let's go and just, you can download it through the slide, but if you're not following my slides, if you go to the sample page for CIS 257, it's under Swing Demo A9, and this is something else that I'd like to be able to cover today in our presentation. So again, it's going to be a little bit tedious. I am going to switch back to my Explorer window, right? So jump out of sample A8 and instead go back to my 257 subfolder, create another subfolder, right? And this time it will be, actually no, I apologize. Sample A8 and the next coming up, which is sample A9, is going to be the name of the project that I will be creating directly in my NetBeans new project wizard. So, but before I move on to the next project, I'm just going to close these source files so that they're not getting in the way, and then I will just proceed to create say file and create new project, right? So create new project, new Java application, and this time I will name this sample A9, right? Which the promise is that it's going to demonstrate system menus and how they can be managed and what it takes to work with the menus. Finish. All right. So let me see. Did I? So by the way, once I unchecked the create main package, it stayed unchecked, so I didn't have to uncheck it this time. So right now it's completely empty project. So I will do similar thing. I will just locate my project on the list of folders that I'm using here. And so this is my sample A9, and now I'm inside this project, this NetBeans project. Under source, I will again create new folder and name it PCKG package. Package name, obviously this will be something more appropriate in a real life application. But this is where, to this location, this is where I'm going to download all the sample code, right? So I have it in my address bar if I need it here. And so then I switch to my browser, go back to A9, and for every download I'm just going to say save link as, get out of A8 and go down to A9 and click the package and say oh, wait a minute, A9, not A8, A9, right? And package. So this is empty folder, and so this is where everything is going to be downloaded. So let me just do this and do them by one. So when I'm done downloading, I typically just do it one more time to take a look at the list of files that I've already downloaded and just verify that I got everything. So I seem to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 files to download, and here I have pretty much seven files that have been already downloaded. So I feel confident that this is what I want, and I'm going to cancel out of it and just go back to sample A9, look at the content of my package, and just make sure that it's buildable, right? Just say clean and build, and we can start our work with this sample.